Hi guys, it's Kelly here and I'm back with another video. Today's video is actually going to be just a little bit different. I didn't really ever plan on doing a video for this particular card, but it was requested and so I had filmed the footage. I'm happy to do it. There's a new stamp company in town. It's called Trinity Stamps, and this is their full release, their grand opening. So just kind of looking through, they have some really cute succulents. They have like a Build-A-Cake set. They have a lot of florals, which I totally love. They have this fun, like Lady Liberty. There's a couple of different illustrators for this stamp company, I believe. And so there's a couple of different styles, which I think is always awesome. The more dynamic a stamp company can be, I think, that's only going to be beneficial. Check out this coffee. It's like coffee, cakes, croissants, set, which is huge. And it has this awesome sentiments that go with it. So really, really like those. Ultimately, what I ended up deciding on using was the Bouquet of Hope and the Hello Sweet Friend. So the image here is a little girl and she's holding like a bouquet of, I guess we could go with like wildflowers, in front of her face. And don't mind me here, I don't know what I'm doing. I picked up the wrong stamp set. It happens. Just like sometimes I pick up the wrong marker. And so when I saw this image, I think that it's beautiful. I really do. And they stamped awesome and just no issues, like quality photopolymer stamps. And so I'm stamping in black Simon Says Stamp ink because I'm going to be doing some watercoloring. I really wanted to use this image because I thought that it was just beautifully illustrated. And what fun it would be if like you opened your door to your friend, like your friend or child or whatever standing there and they just had like this enormous bouquet of flowers. Like who wouldn't be happy about that? I mean, well, I guess if you had allergies you might not be, but you get the gist of what I'm saying. And so I really wanted to use the image, but I did not want to take the time to have to meticulously color it with copic markers. So I decided I was going to go for a more arty look, which isn't necessarily always my vibe. Like I like things that are very clean. But I also like watercolor that's really messy. So that is the way that I decided to go. Basically, I'm using a number 8 round brush and I'm painting with Distress Oxides. I love Oxides because they dry back softer. And so that's why I opted to use them. You can use any watercoloring medium you want for this. You just want to put down a layer of water wherever you want the pigment to be. The pigment's going to flow wherever it's wet. So be particular about where you're putting it. I was literally just slapping it on. Like I didn't care. As long as it was larger than my image, I was cool with wherever the colors ran. So up at the top, I wanted it to be a bluish purple combination. And then I wanted her dress to be like a yellowish orange because they're complementary colors. I am risking mud here. I just am. I'm risking mud where that purple is and blue is meeting the orange. And I knew that I was going to be risking it. But shockingly, I was actually really okay with it because it almost created kind of like a skin tone. And so I just decided not to mess with it. If that happens to you and you don't like the way that it looks, you can just blot it up with a dry paper towel. But I didn't even feel like it was necessary. I was going for that super messy look. So I'm spattering on, the different colors of ink. And sometimes if I don't like the edges, like you saw me go in there and like pull some out so that they were a little bit more random. My paper, which by the way is Canson watercolor Monteval paper, the supplies are always linked. There's linked below. It's bowing. That's what I'm trying to say. Where are my thoughts not, like my brain's just not functioning. Forgive me. So it's bowing. And so the puddles are running to the outside edge. Now, if you don't want hard edges, you can totally sop those up with a paper towel and then it'll be all kind of one, consistent level of, moisture and then it would dry more even, but I didn't want that. I wanted kind of the hard edges and the mix and it to be different. So that's why I'm showing you me actually heat drying it so you can see how much those pools of color are moving and you can decide which way they move. So like the one up top, that purple one is almost off the page. I don't want it to be off the page. So I'm going to just adjust the way that I approach it, where the heat and the air is coming from, and that will scoot it back down. And then it's going to give me some darker pools, some harder edges on the outside. I'm totally fine with that. I think that the background came out super pretty, even with the more, I don't, almost like burnt umber color that I had going on between the bouquet up top and her skin tones below. I'm also going to go in and just splash on a little bit of clean, clear water to try to lift up some of the pigment, and that's just going to create some variation. You might not feel like you need to do that. I felt like parts of it were a little bit blocky, so I wanted to, and I ended up doing it twice, and then just going in with a clean, I would say paper towel, but realistically, I couldn't find my paper towel, and I have a box of tissues sitting on my desk. So, yeah, Kleenex to the rescue on this one. That's what I used. Once that was all dry, then I'm just going to switch gears, because I do, even though I didn't want to spend hours upon hours meticulously coloring every single flower that was in this bouquet, I did want there to be some definition, because I am a fan of that cleaner look and things being separated from the background. So I just picked my same kind of go-to skin tones, and I just went with it. I just colored directly over the oxides. I know that it's not going to look perfect because it has that what they call an underpainting underneath it. But I don't care, because I think that's what makes it pretty, guys. Like, I do. I think that is what makes it different and unique and different from everybody else's, or even my own. I would never be able to recreate this the same exact way again, even if I did all of the same steps, which is kind of the beautiful thing about watercolor is, you get what you get when you do it, and then the next time you do it, you get what you get when you do it. So it's always kind of a surprise. For the shading parts of it, she's definitely going to have shading on her upper arms. They're set back down by her elbows, where her wrists are. Where her skirt is sitting on top of her knees is going to have shading. Underneath, like, you've heard me say this before, trust your illustrator. So they drew the two little lines for her kneecaps. I'm just accentuating that with a little bit of shadow, because there would be some, if she was just standing there. So just adding shading to those areas, and I go lightest to darkest, darkest to lightest. And then I didn't even skip my lightest color. And I think that there was kind of in my head, I was like, why am I even putting this on here? But I do think that it makes a difference, because it lightens up those other colors. So I just did everything the same. Everything that if I was coloring this on white cardstock with no painting over it, I colored it the exact same way. And I was really happy with the results. So like I said, I was looking for her dress to be like an orange or a yellow, just based on the colors that kind of came out of the mix. That's how I picked this more golden yellow. So if you're going to try this, my suggestion would be, don't be married to a color scheme when you first start it. Pick out the colors that you want of distress inks, oxides, watercolors, whatever your medium is. And then let them do its thing, and then make a decision about what colors you want to put in there, what colors you want to play up. Because originally, I probably would have put more pink in it. I probably would have made it a little bit more coral. But that, just because of the underpainting, it just made sense to do more of a golden yellow. And even though there's that underpainting underneath it, you're still going to be able to see all of the shading, guys. Like, we're not wasting our time here. So her dress, her skirt is, I don't even necessarily know that I would call it pleated, because it isn't a consistent pleat, but it is definitely a moving material. And so she does have those little gatherings and things like that. So anything that's darker, you want to put, anything that's set back, you want to be, I'm knocking things over, my bad. Anything that is set back, you want to be darker. Anything you want in the forefront, you want to be lighter. So especially her dress on that left-hand side, where it's almost like double layered, that will definitely be lighter. For the flowers, I basically story of my life, I basically just randomly picked things, which is pretty much how I operate in my regular everyday life. I'm just flying by the seat of my pants on a wing and a prayer, hoping that at the end of the day, it's all going to come together. And if it's not, then, I'll fix it then. So here I'm just picking out, different colors that I want to be purple. I'm going to do the same thing with some blues. And then for the actual leaves, not that there's many that you can see, it's mostly flowers. And then the stems in her hand, I'm going to use some blue greens, just because I used that peacock feathers in the the Distress Oxides. And here I just basically did 2 colors. I did a dark and a light, not even a light, a lighter, because I wanted them to be really vibrant and stick out from that background. Just because I just love techniques like this. It's so kind of just freeing. Like if you've never done this before, I mean, go into the kitchen, depending upon what time it is, get yourself a cup of coffee or a glass of wine or whatever it is that you need to give yourself a hot minute and unwind and just do some really simple, non-stressful coloring, and try this. It doesn't have to be, I mean, this image is beautiful for it, but you can do it with a flower. You can do it with a bouquet stamp set. You can do it with objects like a coffee mug, things like that. So don't pigeonhole your techniques. This could be used for a lot of different things and have it be really beautiful. I feel like I do this fairly often, this particular style, but I'm usually more detailed about my coloring because I want that to be the focal point. And with this piece, I just felt like the focal point was so strong, like the illustration was so strong, that I didn't even have to worry about doing all of the little extra things. It just wasn't necessary. The card was just pretty on its own. I did struggle a little bit with what I was going to do for the sentiment, because the way that the stamp is drawn, it cuts off just below her knees. And so I thought about maybe putting a banner there, but then it looked really cut off. Like it just didn't look right. Like the card just stopped. So I ended up, which I'm sure is no big surprise to you if you watch this channel, I ended up heat embossing the sentiments and then cutting them out into labels. And then that gave me enough balance, I guess. Like the sentiment was strong enough with that black backing to kind of compete with the things that were going on in the background. Not compete, hold its own. So it could hold its own with what was going on in the background. And then I did pop them up on some foam tape. I cut that one a little too long, so I'm just going to trim it off. And then I'm going to put these on. I usually, if I have something that's in 2 parts, I don't press the first one down until I'm sure. Because this foam tape is very difficult to get back up, even though I have had to do it in the past. It's usually not pretty. I'm going to go in with some clear Wink of Stella and just add that into the blooms that are up top, because you know me, I love the glitters. And then I am just going to put a few clear sequins around the sentiment to kind of fill in those gaps. And then that's it. That's the whole card. I'm all done. I'm good to go. So thank you guys so much for hanging out with me. I hope that you will go visit Trinity Stamps if you have not seen them yet. She's got a lot of really good stuff. So thank you guys so much for joining me, and I'll catch you on the next video. Bye.